I really think that one of the most frustrating things about learning piano is you could be playing for years, making some critical mistakes along the way that are really slowing you down, and you're not even aware of it. Well, luckily for you, I've carefully curated this list of easy to avoid mistakes, and by fixing them, it will unleash your true potential learning on the piano. The first learning mistake, which 99% of you are making, is that you're not approaching practice with the right mindset. And here's some tips on how to do that. Remember that practicing is one part having fun and one part challenge. So ideally, you should have one piece that you like to play and one piece that pushes you just outside of your comfort zone so that you're learning new things. The second part of having the right attitude is understanding that practice is really hard at first. It's really hard to find the time, find the motivation. But one thing I want to tell you is that it does get easier as you make practice an everyday, or at least close to everyday, habit. And the last thing you need to understand about having the right mindset is that practice should be approached with a positive attitude and not a negative one. So many students are like, oh no, I got to practice at 4. It's going to be a nightmare. No, tell yourself it's going to have fun. And that's why I told you that practice should be one part having fun and one part challenge so that it's in even balance. Learning mistake number 2 is a big one. I know a huge chunk of students out there are making this. And of course, I'm talking about using crutches while playing the piano. And I don't mean quite literally. I mean little things that kind of prevent you from learning what you're supposed to, like putting stickers on the keys. You want to, as quickly as possible, actually learn where the notes are on the piano. Another great example is synesthesia. You've probably seen it where the colored bars come down and you have to repeat, basically what it shows you, similar to something like Guitar Hero. And while this may be fun at first and may be good to start learning one piece, you want to stay away from this as soon as possible because you really want to put in the time to learn piano for real so that you become a versatile musician and learn all the music that you want to learn. Okay. This next mistake, seriously 99% of you are making, and I've been teaching piano a long time and I'm very serious about this. The third mistake that you're probably making learning on the piano is not being objective. So have you ever been playing around on the piano and you're just kind of aimlessly playing things? Maybe it's some things you like. Maybe it is something that you should be practicing, but you don't really have any rhyme or reason. And at the end of the practice session, you don't really write anything down. You're just like, I'm going to do the same thing tomorrow. That is a big mistake. That is called noodling around on the piano, where you get a pot of noodles and you dump it on the piano. Wait, let's try again. And that's what they call noodling around on the piano, where you don't really have any rhyme or reason. If you ever heard of the term spaghetti code, where one part of the code just kind of leads to another and it doesn't really connect with anything else, well, that's what noodling around is on the piano, and it's going to slow your progress down a lot. Here's how to get around noodling. So when you're practicing, you need to have a list of objectives that you want to accomplish, and the more specific these objectives are, the better. A good list might look like this. Number 1, learn the G major scale. Number 2, clean up C major scale fingering from last time. Number 3, measure 30 of the Moonlight Sonata. And then number 4, play through Moonlight Sonata whole piece. Do you notice how those were real specific? A certain measure of a certain piece, a specific scale, the fingering of a certain scale. You don't want to just write practice pieces, practice scales. Those are not good objectives to have because they're too broad. You need specific objectives, and I've been told by a lot of mentors I've had that having specific objectives is good, and I can affirm to you that that is the case. This part is very, very important to get around noodling. So when you make a mistake on the piano, you just move on, right? No. What you need to do is you need to write down that mistake in like a notebook or something like that. And then when you start your next practice session, start your practice session from that mistake. And should the mistake be like, oh, fix Moonlight Sonata? No, that's not right because that's not specific enough. You need to say measure 28 of Moonlight Sonata, or maybe that G sharp, or some specific rhythm in there. Again, be specific and make sure that each practice session you are going down and you're accomplishing something meaningful. This next one, which is learning mistake number 4, I tell students about this all the time, and I can't believe they still do it though when they're learning piano for the first time or first few months. Please stop. Are you listening? Please stop trying to play your favorite song. So it might be like Fearless by Taylor Swift, or it might be Piano Concerto No. 2 by Rachmaninoff. No matter what it is, you want to make sure that you're learning piano from the very beginning with like a piano lesson book or courses over on my website, pianolessonsontheweb.com. And please stop jumping to these like kind of hard pieces to play, especially for a beginner. You need to work your way up to that. But I do have a tip for you, because some of you are like, really, Tim, do I have to do this? I'll meet you in the middle. Are you ready for it? Here's the tip. The tip is that you can find easier versions of almost any piano piece. So let's say Nocturne in E flat major by Chopin, the one you've probably heard in movies a million times before. Well, guess what? The real version of that piece, you have to be playing piano for many years to be able to really tackle that piece. But you can go on Google or something similar and type in Nocturne in E flat major, easy version, and here's an easy version right here. Learning mistake number 5. So if you've been playing piano and you're like, I'm going to play this piece and then play this piece and then this piece and then this piece and this piece, this piece, there's a problem. And you're like, what is it? I've been playing piano the whole time. Well, the mistake is that playing piano is only like half the puzzle. I know it sounds weird, right? You definitely want to be playing piano a lot. But the other half of the puzzle is skipping over important topics like music theory, really mastering how to read music. A lot of students, they'll look at how to read music and then for a week and then never look at it again. This is a mistake, okay? And you want to make sure that you're mastering each of these things. And these things are as follows. Music theory and note reading, which I've already mentioned. How about sight reading, the most important skill you can possibly practice on the piano? Write that on your practice list. Please start learning about sight reading. It will help you out a ton. And then things like finger dexterity exercises, things like scales. There's a reason we do those hand-in exercises, things like that. And so make sure that you are adding those extra things in your practice time. I know it'll take up time and it'll be technically less time playing your pieces, but trust me, by knowing these things, like music theory is how music works, it's going to really help you out in the long run. Of course, there's more important mistakes that you need to be on the lookout for, with the most important ones at the end. I just want to take a minute here to introduce a new section into our videos, or my videos, that is called like words of encouragement or words of advice. It's basically advice that I wish I had many years ago that would have helped me out a lot. And I'm going to give you some of this wisdom as well. So today's piece of wisdom or words of encouragement has to do with looking at something the first time and not understanding it, right? Because it can be a big blow to the ego. Like, why don't I understand this? You might be learning piano for the first time and being like, why don't I get this? Maybe piano just isn't for me. Well, no, that's probably not the case, actually. Whenever I've come across things that I don't understand right away, I remember when I went to grad school, that was a common thing. I'd look at something and be like, I just don't get this. But if I looked at it again the next day, and the next day, and the next day, just spending maybe 5 minutes a day on whatever it was, say it's just a paragraph of information I don't get, I was always surprised that after a few days of thinking and pondering on it, all of a sudden, it just begins to click. And I know it sounds like magic or it's weird, but your brain is always like solving problems when you sleep and throughout the day and things like that. So sometimes all it takes is looking over things a few times, and your brain will slowly start to wrap your head around it. It might take weeks, it might take months. I felt it took years with me in music theory for this to happen, where I just didn't get it at all. And then one day I took like my 4th music theory course, and all of a sudden, not only did that course make sense, but all the things that I had taken up to then, I'm like, I see how it all fits together now. So today's words of advice are that if you don't understand something right away, it doesn't mean that it's just beyond your understanding forever. It just means that you have to keep giving it a chance, let it just kind of marinate in your brain a little bit, and you'll always be surprised, at least I have been, that things begin to click a lot of times all of a sudden. Okay, we're ready for mistake number 6. And mistake number 6 is not analyzing before you play. There's a number of things that you should look out for even before your fingers hit the keys, and here's what they are. First thing is the time signature, particularly what time signature we have, but how many beats in each measure, and what note gets one beat. In this case, we have 3 beats in each measure, with the quarter note getting 1 beat. So it's going to be counted as 1, 2, 3, just like that. And sometimes I'll even play the opening measure just so I understand and can internalize the rhythm of what we're playing. The next thing I'm going to be on the lookout for is key signature. Here we have 1 flat, B flat, and so all Bs, almost no matter what, unless they tell you in the middle here with an accidental, are going to be flat. And sometimes I'll even play the scale that has the same key signature of the key that I'm in. So if we're in F major, I would play the F major scale. And that really just lets me know where exactly on the keyboard these flats and the rest of the scale notes are. Next thing I'm on the lookout for is just starting hand position. You know, I see that I got finger 5 down here with the left hand, which makes sense because I have this kind of arpeggio pattern I have to play in the opening here, and with the right hand 4 and 2. The next thing is dynamics. That's the word I'm looking for, which is how loud or soft you have to play. And here I can see that I have a P for piano. Other than that, I would just look out for any tricky sections, rhythms. It looks like rhythm's pretty standard here. And then the last thing I'm going to be on the lookout for, which everybody misses, 99% of students, is the repeat sign, which we have a few here. Okay, we have just 3 more mistakes, of course, with the important ones being at the end. But first, like in every video, I just want to take a second to thank you to all those that have supported the channel over the years, from the regular viewers to the mods to the channel members to people that sign up for courses over on my website, pianolessonsontheweb.com. Just want to take a second to say thank you so much. Mistake number 7 is not building a repertoire. And a repertoire is a list of pieces that you know well, that you can play either for yourself or for others. You have them memorized already. They are complete pieces. And what a lot of students make the mistake of, which I made the mistake, was you work through like a piano lesson book or something behind me, and you get to the end and you don't have any pieces in your repertoire. So you get to the end of the book and somebody's like, oh, you know how to play piano? And you're like, yeah, cool. And they're like, oh, can you play anything from your book? And you're like, no, I can't, because I don't have a list of repertoire. I don't have any pieces that I've memorized. So ideally, what you want to do is, as you're working through your books or your teacher or whatever you have, if you find a piece that you're particularly good at and you're fond of, memorize it and then write it on your list as a piece on your repertoire, so that whenever anybody asks you if you know how to play piano, or if you just want to play for your own enjoyment and you don't have the books in front of you, you are able to do that. Not only is a good repertoire list a great way to show off what you can do on the piano, it also helps keep interest high, because you can always bounce back to these pieces that you love when you're currently working on something that maybe you don't love quite as much. And the last thing I want to tell you about repertoire is that over time, pieces that are too easy will fall out of your repertoire, and they should be replaced with more difficult pieces that are the best representation of what you're able to do on the piano currently. Mistake number 8 is an obvious one, but 99% of students make this mistake. I'm serious. I even still make this mistake to this day, and that mistake is playing too fast. Playing too fast is actually going to create a lot of problems for you, and actually make it's kind of weird, because you think, oh, if I play it faster, I'm going to be able to learn it faster. No, you'll actually learn it slower, because if you play too fast, you're going to be skipping over mistakes. You may not even notice any of the mistakes. And you're also not going to be paying attention to the next mistake we're going to be talking about here at the end. And basically, it's basically going to cause you to rush through your pieces without being careful. So what I want you to do, so whatever piece you're working on now, every once in a while, try it at half speed. In fact, I would say the first playthrough of your pieces, play them through half speed, and that will allow you more time to, first of all, grab the notes, but make sure that your finger numbers are correct, that your technique is correct, that you have the right sharps and flats, and all that good stuff. So play slow, and whatever your tempo you're playing at now, you probably even want to slow it down from there. One more thing I want to tell you about is that pieces that you tend to recognize, like for Elise, the tendency is to try to play those at full speed right away and get that idea out of your head. I know you're going to want to play your favorite piece at full speed, but you have to work your way up. And starting slower is the way to go. Okay, mistake number 9, the most important one, and then I actually have a final tip at the end to make it all kind of tie together here and to extend your learning experience, I guess. But anyway, mistake number 9. I can't believe we have to talk about this again, but it is not paying attention to your finger technique. Now, what is finger technique? So finger technique all revolves around using the right fingers on the piano for whatever you're trying to play. So for example, if I'm trying to play a C major scale, and I start the scale with finger 5, well, that's not really smart, is it? Because I have to play up in this direction of the piano, but my fingers are really geared for playing down there. So that's why it makes sense to start it on a certain fingering and have appropriate finger crosses where you need them, because that's going to allow you to play your scale, piece, or whatever appropriately without, quote, running out of fingers. So what you don't want is this. See how I ran out of fingers and I had to repeat 5? Whenever you're playing a piece and you're repeating the 5th finger over and over, you know you're messing up. In fact, not paying attention to your finger technique can result in the following problems. Number 1, sloppy and uneven playing. Number 2, poor phrasing. So when I'm playing for Elise, there's a certain finger pattern that goes along with that. If I try just any old finger pattern, see how disjointed that sounds? Well, phrasing in music is like when you're talking, comma, and then you have other parts of the sentence, period. It's like the punctuation in your sentences. So if I play it like this, starting from the 5th finger, I was able to finish out that idea without doing a lot of extra work on my hands, and that fluid kind of sound is what we call phrasing. And another reason you want to make sure you have the right fingers is that it's going to eliminate discomfort. So if I'm starting this piece just from any old fingering, my hands are doing a lot of extra work, and that's actually putting a lot of strain on them and a lot of discomfort. So always be sure to pay attention to the finger numbers they give you, and even write in the finger numbers of trickier passages so that you can play nice and smoothly. Okay, I have the final tip, and as promised, this is going to extend your learning beyond this lesson. Are you ready for it? Well, in addition to the mistakes that you can make, it's important to know the strategies on how to learn piano to begin with. So I highly recommend you check out this lesson right here, which is how to learn piano as fast as humanly possible. Watch this one next, and it's been your piano teacher, Tim. I'll see you next time.